Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Poddin, my Noggin. This week we are joined by a special guest, Andrea McGrath's out of Brooklyn, New York. She's an entrepreneur and a mental health advocate. Andrea, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited as well. So, I had to take a look at what you sent, and obviously, your story was caught my heartstrings really, because that's what this show is about, right? It's about, my umbrella is mental health and making sure that people are good and they know that they can be good and they can be better and we're all in it together.
Yes.
So your story struck a chord with me. And then also the story of how you decided to marry the two sort of things in your life and what you've created from that. So let's start with your story. Like, bring us back. Tell us what you're comfortable with. Tell us, what or where this all came from.
Sure. So I am a mom of two teenage children, and one of my children suffers with their mental health,
Okay.
and she always has. My daughter, we say that she was born anxious, and it's like half a joke, half not, but so it's just always been something that has been in our sights, mental health, and just trying to figure out how to get her the correct help that she needs and, resources, looking for resources for her. And it's just, it's just a journey. It's a lifelong journey. And I never wanted her to feel though that like there was something wrong with her.
Okay.
We always tried to make it clear that like it's the same as if she had diabetes or, some sort of a health problem because it is what it is. It is part of you and it's okay. And we just need to figure out how to navigate it and how to embrace it and just how to, tie it all in. This is never anything where like you need to change who you are. It's all these little pieces, they make you so wonderful and so beautiful and so special. So that was our whole journey, and just the journey itself, it was really difficult because just the lack of resources and the lack of help that is out there, especially affordable. I want to make that clear as well. Affordable help. We do have health insurance, and the process was just torture, and where we actually had to finally come out of it and say, okay, it's time to pay out of pocket, just because for us, and I'll get to why, but it 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 was a necessity for us. So what had happened was, again, this is something that we've been working on all my daughter's life. She's now 16. She was just 16 in December, but a few years back, she had this complete breakdown, and she couldn't get out of bed, and she just couldn't do anything. She wasn't showering. Honestly, just sitting up out of her bed was a struggle for her.
Mm.
And it was just something that took a toll on our entire family. And it's heartbreaking to watch. And, like this is my child, and it's not a simple fix to, oh, it's the flu. It's a, she's got a fever. Let me give her some Tylenol. This was something that it kind of like drives you mad because you're saying, okay, what can I do? What can I do? There has to be something that I could do. Um, and then I started really finding myself like kind of sink into this dark place because I couldn't figure it out. And it was just watching her go deeper and deeper into this hole. And then, I mean, I was up at night, I was Googling, I was questioning family friends that I know that are in, you know, um, mental health, resources and stuff like this. And I was just like, I have to be able to fix this. I have to be able to fix this. Um, which kind of was going against all of my, you don't need to be fixed, right? So then I was having kind of like that argument within myself. So during this whole time, And I didn't want to take anything away from my daughter either because she was the one that was really, really suffering. Um, so I never wanted to show that I was also having some difficulty. So, like I was putting up this front and I was just trying to like get through the days and they were just so hard. And there came a time when like, I don't even know why, like it was almost like just like this divine intervention kind of a thing. We would sit down and we would just sit on the couch as a family and I'd light a candle and I honestly just felt calm. I just felt like this like release, like between the scent and the flame and just the fire itself and just the whole ambiance of it. We'd keep the lights low and just setting that scene. And I know that it seems like the silliest thing or the most simple thing maybe, but like it was just so therapeutic for me and my daughter and my whole family because it wasn't only affecting me and my daughter, it was also affecting my husband and our son. And you're watching somebody that you love so much like just not be able to pull themselves out of this hole. And going through all this, I had said to myself, you know what? I knew that I wanted to do some sort of advocacy
Mhm.
because just going through this and watching it and seeing like just how much is still lacking and the stigma that you would think we are in 2024 people like really and there was just so much like that I kept seeing and then there was also there was like this whole thing of just I need to do something. I need to do something. Um, and I was already making candles as a hobby and just because it was something for myself to do, just like a little therapy for myself, a little self-care there. And I loved that process. I loved the process of trying to like match scents and, mix all the things and find something that would calm us and that would make us, feel good. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to take these two things because I know how powerful the candles were for me and for my family. And I want to share that with the world, but use it, tie it into mental health and have it as a way of saying, like, you are not alone. Yes, there's darkness right now, but that will not last forever. I promise you. We do come out of it. You can come out of it. And there are people that are here. And you know, just I think that was just like the main message was you are not alone. There are people here. We can light, we can light this world up together. Look for those flickers of hope and just all those things. So I really just wanted to use the business as a way to advocate for mental health and then also to give back to mental health organizations because I just feel like they definitely need as much funding as possible.
Mm.
So we were doing that as well. Excuse me.
I love that sort of um, trajectory, right?
Hmm.
Um, there's so many things I want to ask you, and so yeah, I love that trajectory. That realizing in that moment when you lit a candle in your living room with your family, that there was something to that flicker, that flame, that created warmth,
Yeah.
created that ambiance, all of that stuff that sort of resonated with you, and then your children and your husband. So I love how you not only was like, oh, I want a candle business, but also how can I like really take the two and drive the message home of mental health, and then also give back to mental health through sales.
Yes.
And so, for anybody who's listening or watching, you can go to, sorry, I have it up, outofdarknesscandle.com. Lovely website.
Thank you.
And the story is there. And they have really cute candles, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But they definitely have a really cute candles, and they give 5% back. And I had it in front of me. What is the name of the organization that you give 5% back to?
It was the Youth Mental Health Project. I believe I have to update my website because they have just merged with Mental Health America.
Okay,
So
okay.
yeah, so
So
now
it's,
it goes to Mental Health America.
but this is fantastic. So I want to step back real quick. So, like, you know, when you were talking about your daughter going through all of these things, and then that episode where she went very low on the scale, super depressed, unable to function, like, I get that. Been there. Um, I know many people get that. The I also get that you didn't want to show or take anything away from her, so you built that wall. But I'm like, I can only imagine the sense of helplessness that you felt throughout that time, right? Because as you said, with flus or with, a stomach ache or something like that, you can treat it with medicine.
Mhm.
And while you can treat mental health with medicine as well, it's not as cut and dry as like, I have a
Right.
headache, here's a Tylenol. Um, and then watching your child experience something that for me, no child should have to experience,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
it really, I struggle with any child that has to experience any physical or mental illness. It's
Same.
just so unfair.
Yes.
Like, let them be kids. Let them grow up. Like, I would prefer that no one experienced physical health or mental health problems, but like the children really sort of just, they just really tug on my heartstrings because it's like, and to not even know, because I think when you're a child and even you're in your teens and you're going through those hormonal changes and you're just sort of unsure of who you are, period, because you're still a child and teenager, and we'll say teenager to not offend anyone, but that sort of thing. Um, to have to deal with that and to cope with that. And while I know that you've put on a brave face and all of those things, they're also receptive to the fact that this is affecting people around them,
Yeah.
right? And it's a weight that weighs them down. So I want to ask, how is your daughter doing today?
So today she's doing wonderfully, actually. After that episode, she was actually diagnosed with bipolar 2. Previously, it was just anxiety and depression. And then after that, they had diagnosed her with bipolar 2. So she was on medication for a little while and she wanted to wean off of it. She just
Mhm.
felt just not herself. And, that was always a thing where I said, let's try it. If you really hate it, it's your body. We'll cut it. As long as you're safe, like as long as you're safe and you're going to be safe for yourself and you're not going to harm yourself, you could stay off of it. So we weaned her off of it, and she's doing really great. She has a therapist that she loves. She also
So
sees
important.
a psych nurse just in case she wants to go back on the medication. So there's just a lot of support, and she's just really, I mean, blossomed, to be honest, so, and then,
I'm having a moment. So
Mhm.
I know you said you listened to a previous podcast
Yes,
about online hate, right? I'm
yes.
not sure how many you listened to, um, but so, and I have goosies because we live in a time, and there is stigma, right? There is
Mm.
still stigma. We know this, but we live in a time where your daughter was born to a woman and a family who gave so much space and acceptance and love and kindness. I have goosies. If I get emotional, I apologize. In ensuring that they felt safe with their mental illness. And through the process, they were diagnosed with type 2 bipolar disorder. Bipolar affective disorder, I believe, is the actual
Hmm.
term. And that's my story. When I was
Hmm.
29, after years and years and years of like thinking there got to be something wrong with me. There has to be something wrong with me. And finally, after all that time getting a diagnosis and then learning what happens to your mind and your body, and then understanding what, like, recognizing triggers
Yes.
or changes in your moods,
Mhm.
like, that has been more powerful than any medication. I'm on medication for it, and I have been, but it's very low dosages because I find I'm from Canada, and there is a difference, obviously, with healthcare in the U.S. and healthcare in Canada.
Mhm.
So in Canada, when I was diagnosed with type 2 bipolar, they threw every medication you could possibly think at me, right? And
Right.
for a very long time, I was like a walking zombie. I was not who I am today. And after an incident, I just said no more. And I went off everything for 6 months. And then I went back to a below therapeutic dose of an antidepressant,
Mhm.
which the doctor didn't want to prescribe because they're like, it's not going to do anything. I'm like, I decide that. You don't decide that. I decide that. And then a below therapeutic dose of another medication that's supposed to keep you a little bit more regulated.
Mhm.
And like, I remember arguing with the doctor, like, listen, I'm like, I'm not taking anything right now. So like, how headstrong I am. So like, this is where I want to be. It's below therapeutic dosage, but I think I just need a little something
Mhm.
to help keep me regulated. I don't need all of this extra stuff. So anyway, after a lot of arguing and back and forth, it was prescribed, and I've been on that exact dosage for the last 8 years, and my whole life has changed
Yeah.
because I have enough of the chemical that I need to keep me sort of regulated. And then when I have an upswing, right, I recognize it.
Yes.
And I have as an adult systems in place, right? So I will message my best friend and I said, in an upswing, FYI, and they will know the drill. So any major purchases I'm not allowed to make. I'm not allowed to make any travel arrangements. I'm not allowed to quit my job. I'm not allowed to make any life-altering changes until I know I've come back down.
Mhm.
But that's with experience.
Right.
So I think, and the psychiatrist, and it's not about me, it's about you, but there's a connection there with
Mhm. Yeah.
the psychiatrist, mapped it all the way back to when I was 13 is when
Wow.
it started to happen, right?
Wow.
Because he went through that whole situation. We went back to earliest childhood memory and faulty assumptions, the whole thing. But 13. So I know that when I hit puberty, that things started to go awry.
Mhm.
But like, I think, I come from rural Newfoundland, which is a very small province off the coast of Canada.
Mhm.
No access to really anything back then. Definitely no talk of mental health. Like, it was still very taboo. Um, so I was just considered a problem child, right?
Right.
Or, you know, that sort of thing. So I applaud you as a mom
Thank you.
because, and this is not to bash my mother at all or my father or anything like that, because that's not what I'm about, but I applaud you as a mom, and I hope that one day your daughter recognizes fully, like the full gravity of it, how much her life has been enriched by having a mother who embraced her.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
No,
So
it's okay.
sweet.
It's okay, but it's really important because it could have went the other way, right? And it does
Yeah.
so often where people, you know, would have tried to force her into a box
Yes.
or told her that no, you need to get out of bed and like I don't want to hear anything, and you're just adding so much awfulness to their already awful state.
Yes.
So like I hope that happens one day when she can look back and she can say, I had a mom who supported. I have goosies too, so I'm right there with you. But has had a mom who supported me and embraced me and loved me exactly as I was and didn't force me to try and be anything that I couldn't be, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of grace is a godsend because it doesn't exist for everybody.
Yes,
right? And
absolutely.
so props and kudos to you for being super mom.
Thank you.
And for, I think, I love that you're also still just open with her, right? Like it's her body, it's her choice.
Yeah.
These are I think you're doing a great job. I think I think it's evident that you're doing a great job. So I'm so happy to hear also that she's doing really well now. Um, Anxiety, I feel like, is always going to be there.
Yes.
It's I'm a lifelong anxious person. I know
Hmm.
this. I'm also a lifelong overthinker. It's it's literally just who I am as a person. And one of the things that I've learned is to sort of just breathe and talk myself down and say, this hasn't happened,
Right.
you know? Um, the likelihood of it happening is very slim. Not impossible, but very slim.
Hmm.
And if you look historically, these type of things don't happen to you.
Yes.
So, that resiliency toolkit, like, and reminding.
Yeah.
So knowing that your daughter will have a journey
Hmm.
um, through mental health, for the rest of her life,
Yeah.
but also knowing that she's clearly got the tools and the support system to thrive and be incredible
Yeah.
with what she's doing. Anything that you want people who may be experiencing the same things, any things that happened in the early days with your daughter that you weren't necessarily sure of at the time what they were, but could be told to whoever's listening or watching as like, if you're seeing this, this could be something. Does
Yeah.
anything?
I mean, I think the earliest, and like you had mentioned it, like, people would usually say, oh, they're just a problem child. And I think the earliest would probably have to be when she was very young. And some people would probably have just said, oh, she's just having tantrums.
Mm,
Like when we had to go to certain places.
mm,
And, like I had to kind of step back and say, well, I don't know about that. Like, because I did have people tell me, no, you're too gentle with her. Make her get up out of bed. This is ridiculous. She's playing you, a child. She was a baby. She just wants the attention and she's being dramatic and, all those things. I'm sure you've heard them. I'm sure a lot of people have heard them. But one of the early signs that I personally think was like she would just kind of like break down, usually if it was like a social event, like if she had to go to a party
mm.
as a child and it would just be this thing. First it was the clothes and what am I going to wear? And I mean, she was little when I say, she's not, this isn't teenage years. This was maybe like 4 or 5. And
Okay.
she was invited to a class party. And, I'm not going to wear that. She got upset with the clothes. She got upset with the shoes. Then she started like pulling at like like pulling at the clothes. I don't like this. This is itchy. This is this. This is this. And, I think looking back now, I mean, in the moment, I wasn't too hard on her ever, um, just because that's not who I am. But I could see how some parents would be like, stop it. Like, just stop it. You're being ridiculous. You said you were going to this party. You're going to this party. You're going to have a good time. Um, but I think that was definitely like a sign of just her anxiety because she does have social anxiety at this point still. I mean, she's getting better, and she definitely is moving, away from it, but there's still certain things that she's not comfortable doing. And, I do still even have some people tell me, well, that's my fault because I didn't push her. Like you should have pushed her. You should have made her go. You should have. And I could see both sides, like, yeah, maybe push her out of her comfort zone. But when I tell you, it wasn't just, oh, I don't really want to go. Oh, I'm not sure. This was a physical reaction.
Mm.
I mean, there were tears, there was dry heaving, there was like, it was intense. It wasn't just, I don't want to go to that party. It was a lot. Um, so there is also like that aspect to all of this that I'm constantly trying to figure out, did I do the right thing? Am I still doing the right thing? Should I push her harder? Should I not push her? Like trying to find that balance, I think, of because I do think that there are times that she needs to be pushed a little bit and she needs to move out of her comfort zone a little bit. Um, but trying to figure out that balance of when to do it, um, and how to do it. And I mean, usually we just talk about it, and I at this point now, as she's older, we talk about it and we just say, listen, try it. You don't like it, you come home, you call me. We do all that thing. But
Okay.
um, there is also all of that. But definitely, to answer your question, definitely that was a huge one. Like, I think that if you see a child that's just completely losing it, maybe take a step back and be like, okay, well, what's actually going on here? And maybe the kid just is a brat. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
I feel like if someone is dry heaving, pulling up their clothes,
mm,
showing physical manifestations
yeah,
of discomfort,
hmm,
I think that that warrants a step back.
yes,
And I think, you know, you can step back and still decide as a parent, because you are the parent, that I'm going to push them to go, or I'm not going to push them to go. I don't necessarily believe that there's a right or wrong in the situation.
hmm,
I just think for me, parents need to learn to listen
yes,
more. Take a step back. Because parents are humans too, right? You're a human. So when you have a little human who's throwing a tantrum, and we're going to air quote this because I don't know if that's what she was doing, or if she was really showing you the physical manifestation of her discomfort. We're human too when it comes to being parents. And we have thoughts, emotions, feelings. We have to go through the whole gamut just like they do. And we get stressed and we lose our patience and
right,
things like that when things shouldn't be hard and they are hard,
hmm,
right? So I love that, because I think really focusing on what's happening with your child when they're young could pinpoint that there's something more to it, that it's not just a tantrum.
100%.
Um, so, to every parent that listens to this podcast, take a step back,
Yes,
right? And just
absolutely.
listen, explore. I love that you have the conversations as well about, um, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. But if you do it, like, you just go do it. If you don't like it, you call me or come
Yeah.
home or whatever. That's that's really helpful as an FYI. And I'm going to speak to you as a 42-year-old adult now who has two best friends and a sister and people around me that understand. I'm very open about it. Like, I have severe social anxiety. Public speaking is a like vomit inducing experience. Um, and up until November, I was um, in an organization where I would often have to speak in front of people,
Mm,
um, host meetings, demonstrations, and I'm always so upfront with my managers. I just say, listen, I'm like, and this is true, I had to make a decision, I think around 37, 38, that I was like, I have to either put myself in the arena and deal with the consequences, or I'm never going to do anything with my life. I'm
hmm,
never going to get out of my comfort zone, which is literally just sitting on my couch under a nice quilt that I've made, watching something on TV or reading a book. Like, that's my happy place. So, like, yay, could I get paid to just be there? That would be wonderful. But, that it's taking yourself out. And my anxiety manifests in an upset stomach,
hmm,
which then becomes a cyclical process, because then my stomach gets upset and then I get anxious and I'm going to have to use a public bathroom. And then it just becomes this whole thing. And so, my best friends, if they were here, they would tell you, oh my gosh, when this happens, we have to make sure that he knows that we can just go.
Yes.
Like,
Right.
and I have that from them. So I hope that your daughter is able to make good friends who recognize that she's going to do what she can do. But sometimes just knowing that you have that out is enough, and not enough, but enough, to make it okay. And it's a lot of bargaining with social anxiety, right? So
Yes.
it's like when you go somewhere, it's like you have to even bargain with yourself. It's
Mhm.
like, I'm gonna go, but if I don't feel comfortable or if this is happening or whatever, I'm literally going to leave, and I'll send them a text and whatever. And it's the same thing with, going for plans with people. It's
Right.
like, right now I'm agreeing to go to this, but like, just as an FYI, on the day of, my anxiety might be through the roof, so I might have to cancel, and I'm sorry, but this
Yes.
is, what I'm very open about it. But now you said at 4 or 5 she was having these experiences. If we were to fast forward to say like around 10 years old,
Mhm.
were there any signs at 10 that would be good call outs for people with children who are going through this that you might have?
Um, well, I wasn't laughing at you with the stomach. I was laughing because we have the same issue here with my daughter.
Mm,
Um, and I mentioned that because that was a huge one as well. When she did get a little bit older, that's what it was. It was always a stomach ache. I have a stomach ache. I have a terrible stomach ache. I have a headache. I don't feel good. I don't feel good. It became more of like a physical, um, I guess, manifestation. And that was her constant. And and I did obviously, okay, well, let's just make sure. Like I was pretty sure that it wasn't anything physical, but of course, okay, let's go to the doctors. You know, and then I think moving one step further from that, that was definitely one that, when she was older, just with my stomach hurts, my head hurts. Um, but then I also realized like a couple times, like with sicknesses, like she would be nervous that, if somebody else was sick,
mm,
she'd just start sniffling. Like, you weren't even really exposed. Like you just heard that this person was sick. No, I think I got it. I think I got that. So that's definitely another one as she got older, something that started coming out too.
I like that. I not that I like that. I'm like, I find this interesting. I totally get the stomach, and I also get the disease part
Hmm.
because I've struggled with that my whole life. So
Yeah.
I could watch a television show, and then like somebody's like, "Oh, I had a growth here, and I felt this and this," and then the next thing you know, I'm feeling these things, and
Yes.
I grew to learn that it's because I catastrophize everything
Hmm.
since I was a child. My comfort zone is being in somewhat miserable states of mind. Like that's what I'm most familiar with. So it
Yes.
becomes comfortable to be there. Um, but I've gotten better with the the diseases. I will say that because with practice and mindfulness and being aware of your inner dialogue, you can change a lot of the things that you feed yourself. So I don't catastrophize as nearly as much as I did say pre 35. Um, and so that's something that's really interesting. The stomach. So turned out for me that I actually did have um, uh, problems with my stomach. It was diagnosed later in life.
Wow.
Um, I think when I was 32, and whether or not it went back to when I was 13 or not, but like growing up as a child, like I would come home from lunch and eat something and be sick to my stomach, like with cramping and pains
Mm.
and like discomfort, and then enter the fear of like soiling your pants in
Right.
public, or not being able to find the bathroom, or not being able to go to the bathroom because that's another issue, like to even use a bathroom where someone
Yes.
could hear you.
Yes.
It's the most uncomfortable thing in the whole wide world. And like I've been in situations in my life, my adult life, where I've had to literally like, you know what? You have to go to the bathroom. There's no way you can hold it. You need to go in there and know that nobody knows who you are, and you're going to leave, and no one's going to remember, and no one's ever going to remember you. So you just got to go do it.
Yeah.
And it's this whole psychological sort of warfare situation just to use the bathroom in
Yes.
public.
Yes.
So I hope that as she continues to grow in this safe and supportive space, that she can work on those things and, you know, tap into her resiliency toolkit. So this is something I have to use a lot, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
how many times in my life as an adult have I soiled myself? Zero
Yeah.
times. Zero times. So that's, you know, we're looking at, I'll just 22 years from 20, right? It didn't
Right.
happen when I was 18 either, but just zero times.
Yeah.
So these are things I have to remind myself when I'm going out, when I'm doing things, when I'm going on hikes. One of my friends is like a massive, like, let's go like deep in the forest and hike. And I'm like, you know, fine, I can do this with my roll of toilet paper in my knapsack. Like, I will be prepared, and my spare underwear in the other pocket. Like, I will have the things that I need to make this work. Um, but you know, I'm gonna get through it. So,
Yeah.
so super happy to know that she's doing well and that she has. I can only imagine that your husband is supportive as well, and that she has just a mom, a kick-ass mom that loves her and embraces her. And I think that that's the winning story, right? That's what I want everyone to like emulate, be like Andrea. If you have a
Be like me.
child who is struggling,
Yes.
step back, pay
Mhm.
attention,
Please.
ask
Yes. Please.
questions,
Yeah.
hold space, and be kind.
Please. 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 Yes. 100%. And as frustrating as it may be for you as a parent, especially when your kids are little, you know, they're just trying to find their way. They're just really just trying to find out who they are. And it's probably, and you know, like I know that a lot of times as parents, like we kind of blow up because we're nervous. Um, but then step back and think like, well, I'm an adult and this is how I'm acting. Maybe this is why they're acting this way. Like they have no life experience yet, you
Yeah.
know, like so just please, you know, if you have children or nieces, nephews, you know, anybody in your life that just be kind and just be empathetic. I think that's like the most important thing. And, you know, that's what I teach my kids as well. And just try to be a good person because you never, ever, ever know. And I know we've heard this a million times, but you never know what anybody is going through.
And it's true, you don't. You never know this.
Yeah.
What would you say to people who, I'm going to put you on the spot for a moment. What would
Hmm.
your messaging be to someone who comes from a culture or a background where they struggle with even the concept of mental health?
Yeah. That's that's a really good question. Um, and honestly, my honest answer is we have to, I think a lot of times, and I have to do this myself, we have to close out sometimes what we thought we knew was right. And we have to step into what's going to be right for me, what's going to help me, what's going to heal me, whatever that is, even if you didn't grow up with those beliefs, even if your parents or your grandparents still don't believe in, you know, therapy or mental health or any of those things. We have, I mean, even though we need to still go so far, we've come really far. And there's so many opportunities, and I think that there's different types, you know, like there's if you're not fully like sure or comfortable doing a talk therapy in person, you know, maybe start small, I think. And but if it's something that if your mental health is declining, or if you suffer from a mental illness, please, you know, just get the help that you need. Go to friends, even start with your friends and then go from there. But definitely talk to somebody.
I love that. And I love the call out to starting small. So, for people who are listening, there are hundreds of sort of app-based or article-based resources on the internet that you can start looking at and reading through. Um, there's I think it's called BetterHelp is an app that you can go on and do text-based counseling, which is a little bit more private,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit less committal, if you will. Like, I don't want to, yeah. And when I say committal, like, not that you belong into an institution. What I mean is, like, you don't have to go sit in front of a
Right.
real person and pour your heart out. You can just text back and forth in a confidential format and talk about what's going on.
Yes.
And, mental health for people who are listening who do believe or don't grasp the concept because of whatever their cultural upbringing has been or religious upbringing has been, can look like so many different things. And one of the key things I like to always point out is that since the pandemic, every single person has changed. Something about them has changed. We just survived a global shutdown
Mm-hmm.
that we didn't know. At first we thought was going to be a little blip, but it turned into a multi-year situation. So what it can manifest with is simple things like maybe you're a little quicker to anger than you were before. Maybe you're a little bit easier agitated at work or with your kids. Maybe you have moments where you just feel low, like you have no energy and all of those things. Those are simple things, but they are mental health. So definitely reach out and talk to people where you feel safe, right? And where you think that you won't be judged, because that's the ultimate place.
Absolutely. Yeah. And definitely, and I think just adding to it too is, taking away the scary mental health. Every single one of us has mental health. We have physical health, we have mental health. So it's not mental health as in, oh, you have a mental illness and
Mm-mm.
you have, like this huge stigma. It's mental health is something that every single person has. And every single one of us need to care for it like we do
Absolutely.
our bodies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a great call out actually, because it doesn't have to always be the big, bad, and scary sort of diagnosis.
Yeah.
That could be something little. We all have mental health, just like we all have physical health, and I like that. We have to
Mhm.
care for both.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about the transition to your candle company. I know we talked a lot about your um, daughter and that journey. And it makes me think of, my best friends are my sounding boards, and they always give me feedback on a podcast after it's over. And I remember my last interview, they said, "You talk too much." And I'm like, oh, I know, probably, but I'm like, I'm in the conversation with that person, and we're
Yeah.
connecting, like, but I wanted to talk about the business. So it went from a hobby
Yeah.
to now a business with you, and my favorite one so far, out of all the ones, is the "I am worth it, I am enough" candle, and the Awaken candle, and the Awaken candle one is perhaps my favorite because I wrote a poem out of, last year in October, and then I recorded it and put a video to it to YouTube, and it's entitled Awaken. And it's
Mm.
very much about not being afraid of your limitations, but be afraid of your capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, be afraid how much you can grow and, like, break away from societal subscriptions and societal chains because they exist, and just go be your best self in this world. And so like that candle, and I was just like, oh, I'm like that. So how did the transition happen? Like what walk us through that?
So the transition was basically okay. So I had this idea, and I'm saying, okay, well, I already make candles. I love making candles. I love everything about it. Um, and I wanted to start this business, and I'm going back and forth. Okay, but how do I make this where they're kind of melded together and really not just put out just another candle, because that's not what my mission is. My mission is to touch as many lives as I can and to like, give out a message with each candle. So, as I was like going back and forth and I'm thinking about it, I'm saying, okay, this has to do with all mental health. First I started with, what do I need? What do I need right now? What can I use? And the very first one was probably my unwind candle, which is like a lavender blend scent. And that's what I needed at that time. I needed to unwind and I needed to relax and I needed to chill out. Um, and then how it evolved from there was just basically I would come up with sayings or names of the candles, and then I would try to tie in a scent that I thought resonated with that. So, meditate is very, I call it churchy. It's like smoked oud and patchoulis and, that like deeper, earthier sense, because that's just what it felt like to me. So that's basically how, the transition worked, and just little by little, and I had my daughter help me with some of the scents, mixing them and stuff. And that's basically like how we just kind of melded into, I already had the love of candles. I already knew the process, but then it was just like, okay, now how do I tie this into what I want this to actually be? So little by little, we just started like picking out names and then trying to find those scents.
So I love that too because it's and I'm getting, obviously it's the sun in my eyes, but it's very much Andrea artistry, right?
Yes.
It's your conceptualization of what meditate is,
Hmm.
and I love that because it adds another layer to the work, right? So when they're buying, the meditate candle, they're getting something that's beautifully scented, beautifully packaged, it's soy based, it's
Yes.
vegan, it's
Hmm.
cruelty free, all of those things. But then they're also getting to support mental health, and they understand the story behind it, and then on top of that, they're understanding that there's a little bit of artistry when it comes to a lot of artistry when it comes to the naming and then the scent pairing, right?
Yes.
So I think that's fantastic. How long have you been in business now?
I have been in business for, I'm trying to think what year we're in. I'm like, wait, what year are we even in?
2024 now.
I'm way off of everything. Um, so we started in 2019. So we're starting our fifth year.
Oh, I love this. Okay.
Mhm.
And things are going well.
Things are okay. Yeah, it's a little, we have some ups and downs because supply costs have gone after COVID went
Mm.
oof, like they're so high and they're just not coming down. They just keep climbing. Um, so, just trying to like navigate through all of like those little things is a little difficult. But yeah, we're moving. We're still out there.
I love this. I hope that you continue to move. I totally understand the supply chain situation, and then how detrimental that really is to a small business as well, like
Yeah.
someone who's making something and putting it out there that's not being mass produced, right?
Right.
So keep in mind, everybody, this is artisan, like this is made by a local a woman in Brooklyn, New York. There's so many reasons that you should buy one of these candles. And you can do so at outofdarknesscandle.com. lovely candles over there. And you can follow Out of Darkness on Instagram as well at Out of Darkness Candle underscore co. And I would encourage you to follow, purchase. Let's give them a boost. Let's get some proceeds into um, Mental Health America, right? Because it was the Youth Mental Health
Yes.
Project before, and they merged. So let's do that, and let's make sure that everybody knows um, that these candles are not just candles, but
Right.
they're so much more.
Yes. I call them little flickers of hope.
Little
They're
flickers
your
of
little
hope, which I
flickers of hope.
love that, right? I totally love that. I will have to get a candle. I feel like I definitely need a Waken, for sure. And yeah, so thank you so much for being here with me today. I apologize if I do talk a lot.
No, 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 no. I would rather you be talking than like you just staring at me like.
No, I think that that's the part, right? I get so excited about things, and I just, when it's a conversation more than an interview, right? And as this show progresses over time, I hope that doesn't change. I don't want to be someone who's just, sitting there and not, having a back and forth sort of conversation with someone. And it's all about connection. So
Yeah.
it was a pleasure talking with you today. Once again, thank you so much for being Super Mom. You should write a book about your journey and how the things that you've experienced can be applied to other people who are going through the same situation. Because I think you probably know as well as I do that there's a lot of children out there who are going through mental health struggles.
Yes.
And I can only hope that they have supportive networks like yours did.
Same. Thank you so much. Thank you.